This client has made over $300,000 over the past month. That's around £246,000 in sales. She has a program that is £29.99, and we've had a 58% close rate on those that took the call but did not close, and those that actually closed. In total, if you do a percentage of all our calls taken and the number of deals we've closed about 34% in deals closed, and we have an 85% show up rate. So all of these numbers are slightly above the industry average that you would see. Like, you will hear people say, oh, if you have a 20% close rate, then you're good. Or you might hear people say, if you have a 60% show up rate, you're good. But we've been able to supersede that with this particular account. And in this video, I'm just going to walk you through literally behind the scenes of this entire business, so that if you have any type of online education business right now, it's going to do two things for you. First, you see what it actually takes to build a company or an online education business that makes over $200,000 a month consistently. And then you can also take some of these lessons, apply it to your own business too as well. And that will just lead to more sales, more revenue for you inside of your business. And then you can also start seeing this kind of metrics. So think about your business right now. If you took your close rate from whatever it is right now to like a 30%, 34%, like we have here, imagine what that would do to your revenue. Think of your show up rate. If you were able to increase that by 10, 15%, and you're seeing like an 80% show up rate as opposed to like a 60% and so on and so forth, imagine what that would do to your business too as well. So just really pay attention to this, and we'll just get into the video right now. So the main thing to notice here is this client originally has two offers. When we first came on for this client, she only had one offer, and she added a second product just right when we came in. So we tried to sell this both offers on one webinar, by the way, and it didn't work as well as we wanted it to work. We tested it for about a month, and it didn't just work as well as we wanted it to work. So we had to have two separate webinars every single week, and we drive traffic to two separate webinars, and this client sells the product on each individual webinar. So it's £2,999. That's about $4,000 give or take, and we sell the product through a webinar. So a webinar is the primary funnel that we use for this. So let's get into the actual infrastructure right now too as well. So we drive traffic every week. We have two webinars a week. There's one on Wednesdays and there's another one on Sundays. On both webinars, we sell separate products, and then we drive traffic from our ads, our email, and social media. Everything goes to the webinar opt-in page. Someone opts in for the webinar, and then of course they attend the webinar, and then we try to pitch them or try to close them on that. So if you look at the structure here, we have direct ads. So direct ads here just means ads that are going straight to the webinar opt-in page, where it's ads that the client is filming, either video ads or static ads that are just sending them straight to the webinar opt-in page, trying to get them to opt in to the webinar. We also have Hammer Them ads. This is shout out to Jeremy Ains for this one. It's basically ads where you try to warm up every single person who has opted in for your webinar before the webinar itself. So you run ads to them where you talk about their commonly asked questions. You run ads to them where you set some expectations. You run ads to them where you overcome some objections, and so on and so forth. So we have this Hammer Them system set up too as well, so that whenever someone should actually opt in for the webinar itself, we warm them up before they show up to the webinar. And then we have reminder ads. These are just ads to encourage people to show up to the webinar live. And we don't want a low show up rate on this. Our show up rate on this is around 30%. Some weeks it might go to like 26%, 27%, but the show up rate to the webinar itself is about 30%. And we are getting over 800 plus registrants every single week on each webinar. So get a lot of registrants for this, and yeah, the numbers here look really good with regards to the show up rate. And then we also have retargeting ads. So these are ads that once the webinar is over, every single person who registered, we're either sending them back to go and watch the replay, or we are sending them to go and book a call with the sales team. And then via email, we promote this maybe once or twice a week. One of the things that will kill your email list, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, go and watch my last video, the video I uploaded before this one, is not having variety in your email. So if you keep promoting your webinars over and over and over and over again, you're not going to see the best results pretty much from your email list. Your stats will literally go down. So to avoid that, we only talk about the webinars maybe about once or twice a week. And we get decent number of registrants from the email list that come back and register for the webinar. and then social media too as well, which is very minimal for this client. She doesn't have that big of a social media following, so it's purely ads that we're using to really drive this growth right now for this particular client. So all of that comes to the webinar itself, which is extremely important as well. So when we come to the webinar now, right, a couple of things are unique about this webinar. So originally, this product was a 2K product, was £2,000 originally, and we were selling that through the webinar directly. So we didn't even have a sales team in place, and then we had to increase the price to $2,999. So naturally, when you have a price point that is above $3,000, you want to use a sales team. You don't even want to pitch the offer on the sales call at all. But just because we already had a system that was working in the past, what we are doing right now is we're just pitching the offer directly on the webinar the way it is. We review the price, we pitch the offer. We don't even tell them to book a call or to apply or anything like that. The people who are coming to the webinar for the first time don't even know we have a sales team in place, right? They just literally hear the price, and we will get a few people who would purchase directly. Maybe 1 or 2 people might purchase directly from the webinar itself at this very high price points. The ones that are really warm, the ones that have been on multiple webinars before, and so on and so forth. Maybe 1 or 2 of them might purchase directly, but majority of the sales that we found over the past month has come through the sales team, because these are all sales team stats. And as you can see here, we've booked over 266 calls just in the past month alone. And that's just really insane. And we are not telling them to book a call directly from the webinar. So how we do that, I'm going to walk you through that in a second. But on the webinar, we just pitch them to purchase the $2,999 offer. We tell them all their price and alternatives and so on and so forth. And then they can decide whether or not they want to pay right there and then. But majority don't end up paying right there and then, because it's quite pricey to sell directly on a webinar, unless you have a big personal brand, but the client doesn't have that yet. So majority of the sales end up coming through the sales team. And like I said, I'll walk you through how to do that in a second. So the second thing here is the pre-webinar automation. So in order to get people to show up to the webinar, to maintain that 30+% show up rate, we need to have a dialed in pre-webinar automation sequence. So we have 5 major things that we do here. The first one is the indoctrination emails. So indoctrination emails here just basically means emails that pre-frame the prospects before they show up to the webinar. So how I structure these are very simple. It's 2 emails a day for 3 days. It doesn't matter if someone registers a day before the webinar and they're already in the post-webinar sequence or anything like that. They keep receiving these indoctrination emails throughout the entire period. So it's 2 emails a day for 3 days. The first one is the confirmation email. The second one is a story email, like the client's story email. The third one is going to be a case study email of one of your best case studies that you have. And then the remaining 3 emails are going to be emails where you kind of pre-frame the prospects on the 3 main pillars you're going to cover in your webinar, and you pre-frame them and tell them. Pre-framing here just means that you sell them on the idea of the thing that you're going to teach in the webinar. Let me give you an example. So one of our partners that we just brought on recently, we have a YouTube automation program, and one of the big misconceptions in the market right now for YouTube automation is the fact that there's a lot of AI spam out there, and that just gets your YouTube account banned. So one of the mechanisms we are going to teach on the webinar is how to not get your accounts banned. So in one of the indoctrination emails, we basically talk about that point. The fact that, right now, majority of the YouTube channels out there is just AI spam, people doing engagement farming, people just basically ruining their accounts, and that gets them banned really quickly. We show them multiple examples. We show them why that is not what they want to be doing. And then we tease the solution and say stuff like, on the webinar, I'm going to show you my unique way to solve this problem. So if you want to learn about that, make sure you show up. So you notice how we talk about the problem, but we tease the solution. And that is basically what we do with the indoctrination emails for the last 3 emails. So you're going to do that for your 3 pillars that you have that you're going to talk to people about on the webinar. So that's a key thing to note right there. The second one is reminder emails. These are just purely reminder emails. We have one 48 hours before that is usually teasing them that there's a surprise gift at the end of the webinar, or asking them to ask you a question on what you would like them to cover, or what you would like to cover in the webinar, or what they would like you to cover in the webinar. And then we have like a reminder 6 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before we are live, 15 minutes after, and so on and so forth. So it's just purely mass reminders just to get them to actually show up to the webinar. And then we have SMS too as well. So we send a lot of SMSs through Go High Level platform that we use, and it's just basically 6 hours before, 1 hour before, 15 minutes before we are live, 15 minutes after, 24 hours before, and so on. And so we just send as much as we possibly can just to make sure these people actually show up to as well. And so it doesn't get repetitive. You want to vary the things you talk about in your SMS. Sometimes we tease the surprise gift that they will get at the end. Sometimes we tell them to ask us a question. We ask them questions and so on and so forth, just to keep it engaging. As the webinar draws closer and closer to them. And then we also have ringless voicemails. It's basically when you send a voicemail to someone that doesn't ring out. And we have that too as well to boost the show up rate. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we also have those reminder ads in place to really, really maximize the show up rate on this. And then we have the post-webinar automation. So this is very important. And this is when in our process that we have right here, people start to book calls. So this is not conventional, right? But it works. And when something works, you don't want to touch it pretty much. Could we get more people to book calls directly if we just tell them to book calls from the webinar? Maybe, maybe not. Because if we do that, then we might not have the same show up rates we have right now. We might not have the same close rates we have right now, and so on and so forth. So everything in marketing is context, and there's not one way to do every single thing. So this is not conventional. If I have a new client right now that we are launching, I'm not going to use this exact same system with them. Like I said, this is not conventional. This is not what is preached in the industry right now, but it works for us. We're going to keep doing this until it stops working, pretty much. So post-webinar is when they start to book calls. And how we do that is we have our normal post-webinar automation that tries to get them to purchase, that tells them the discount is going to expire in 48 hours, because when you have a webinar, you want to have an exclusive offer that expires at a set time. So we tell them the webinar offer is going to expire soon. And then in the PS of those emails is when we now tell them, oh, if you're still on the fence, or if you have more clarifying questions, then you can book a one-to-one call to speak with my team. And this is where we get a bunch of calls coming from. And then we also have our setters dialing every single lead to make sure that we can book them on calls too as well. So majority of the call volume, literally all the call volume you see, the over 200 plus calls we've booked in the past month has come from setters dialing leads that registered for the webinar and people applying by themselves in those emails, SMS reminders that we send 48 hours before. And then we now have post-webinar follow-up emails, which is just for us to squeeze more out of the pool of those who registered for the webinar. So how I structured these emails is very simple. So the webinar has some key points that the webinar touched on when the client was on the webinar. Not everybody is going to have the time to attend the webinar and watch the entire 90 minutes plus presentation. So I broke down the webinar key points. Like if you look through the webinar, you'll be able to see key points that was made throughout the entire presentation. So I broke it down into the 10 top key points that was made, and we turned that into an email sequence that we send out over about 5 days or so. And the call to action in those emails is for them to, again, apply. And they go to a sales page that is solution aware. And solution aware sales page just basically needs to talk about the product, answer frequently asked questions, what makes the product unique, and then talk about like the logistics behind the product. So we have a very simple sales page like that does all of that, where it is a solution aware sales page, and that's where we drive all the traffic to. And the call to action on that sales page is for them to apply. So we get a bunch more applications coming in throughout the week from doing that. If we only have the 48 hours thing, then we'll only get applications coming in that 48-hour window. But even if we have a webinar on Wednesday, before the webinar next Wednesday, we are still getting applications on Tuesday, on Monday, on Sunday, and so on and so forth. Just because we have this additional automation in place, just to squeeze more from the juice. Now, I'm not saying this is a thing that is causing us to get a bunch of booked calls. Like obviously, we have dialers and setters that are dialing aggressively every single day. We have about 4 setters right now, and they are dialing 100 plus leads every single day. So we have that in place too as well. But this is also one of the things that helps get more of those applications coming in, because it's a different kind of application if you have someone who applies by themselves compared to a setter just calling a random lead in a CRM and getting them to book a call. So when they apply, we don't book them on a call directly. They don't have the chance to book a call directly. And it's because for non-affluent audiences, this is something I got from Jeremy Inso as well. From non-affluent audiences, if you have them book a call directly by themselves, your show-up rate tends to not be great. But what we found is if you have them apply instead, and then you give them a call, and then book them on a call via a setter, the show-up rate tends to be a lot better. And that's why we have like a 95% plus show-up rate. So if you have a non-affluent audience right now, and you're experiencing low show-up rates, one of the easiest things you can literally try right now would be to literally just stop having them be able to book by themselves and have them just apply, and then have your setters call them up real quick, get them to book a call through the setter instead, and that will increase your show up rate for sure. So that's what we do here as well. And then we have the post booking page, where as soon as the setter books someone, they send them a link, and the structure for that confirmation page is simple. It's just a welcome video that we have at the top of the page. We have FAQs. So the FAQs, how we got the FAQs is we just put all the sales call transcripts, about 30 plus sales call transcripts in Claude. We ask you to tell us the commonly asked questions, and then we have the client's film answers to those questions. Pretty simple stuff. And then we have like a testimonial wall, like literally a very long wall of testimonials and videos that they can just watch throughout that entire process. So that's another thing that we have. So every single person has to go through that page before they hop on a call with the sales team. So you can see we are doing a lot here to make sure that by the time they hop on a call with the sales team, the prospects are already warm. They already know the price. They've already answered their commonly asked questions. And it's usually just very specific things that they need to clarify before they are good to go on the sales call. And that is one of the reasons why we have such a high close rate. Obviously, the closers too are fantastic, but this also definitely helps. Just warm up the prospects a lot more, educate them a lot more before they hop on a call to speak with the salesperson. So the closing calls are usually around logistics, around like, oh, am I using finance and am I paying through payment plans, around fear. And that's a big thing that we found too on those sales calls. People typically have fear around like enrolling into the program, and then just around getting clarity. Oh, for my specific situation, am I going to need this, this, or this? Or for my specific X, am I going to need that? And so on and so forth. So it's just about getting clarity, logistics, overcoming their fear. And that's how the closing call typically looks like when you set up the system this way. So this system definitely works. Like, we made a ton of money for this client, and it happens consistently. And what we found now is the client doesn't even have to show up to the webinars anymore, because throughout the month of June, throughout this past month, maybe the client has only shown up to 2 webinars. And it's because the webinar itself is not the thing we are relying on to get the conversion anymore. We can just play the recordings on the webinars, and because we are using a sales team and everything to squeeze more sales out of the entire system, it just means the clients can afford to not show up to the webinars anymore, which is going to free up a lot of time for the clients too as well. So this system definitely works. I will encourage you to implement this in your business. If you have any clarifying questions, you can let me know. And if you want us to set this up for you, 100% done for you, and there's a link in the description that you can check out so as well. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.